Three wise men? The Bible never says three. Born in a stable? Not mentioned. Silent night? Mary just traveled 90 miles on a donkey. It wasn't silent. The Christmas story we sing about every year has been mixed with tradition, legend, and centuries of artistic interpretation. But when you go back to Matthew and Luke, the only Gospels that mention Jesus' birth, the real story is even more dramatic than the carols suggest. From the shocking truth about the inn to what the wise men actually were, let's separate Christmas fact from Christmas fiction.
Before we dive into these heart-stopping close calls, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because today we're looking at the Christmas story through a different lens. Not the inevitable march of prophecy, but the razor-thin margins where human choice and divine providence intersected. Let's count down the top 10 reasons Christmas almost didn't happen.
Number 10. Jesus had to be born in Bethlehem to fulfill prophecy. Let's start with why location mattered so much. 700 years before Jesus was born, the prophet Micah declared that the Messiah would come from Bethlehem. Not Jerusalem, the capital, not Nazareth, where Mary lived. Bethlehem, a tiny, insignificant town. When Caesar Augustus ordered a census requiring everyone to return to their ancestral hometown, it seemed like terrible timing for a pregnant woman. But this inconvenient decree was actually divine orchestration. Joseph was from the line of David, and David was from Bethlehem, so they had to go. This wasn't coincidence, this was prophecy fulfillment. God used a pagan emperor's bureaucratic decree to position his son exactly where Scripture said he'd be born. The Christmas story begins with this: nothing happens by accident in God's plan. Number 9. Mary and Joseph stayed in Bethlehem for months. Here's where our nativity timeline gets shattered. We imagine Mary and Joseph arriving, having the baby, and leaving quickly. Wrong. They stayed in Bethlehem for months, possibly over a year. Why? Jewish law required Mary's purification, which took 40 days. Luke tells us they took Jesus to Jerusalem for this ceremony, just 5 miles from Bethlehem. Then they returned to Bethlehem, where they were still living when the wise men arrived. Matthew says the wise men came to a house, not a stable. By this time, Joseph had likely found work as a carpenter and settled his family properly. This extended stay shows something beautiful. They weren't refugees rushing through. They were a young family establishing themselves, following God's law, and unknowingly waiting for royal visitors from the east.
Number 8. Herod killed boys up to age 2. This detail reveals a chilling timeline. When Herod realized the wise men weren't coming back to report Jesus' location, he ordered the murder of all boys in Bethlehem 2 years old and under. Not newborns, up to age 2. Why? Because he'd carefully determined when the star appeared, and that timing suggested Jesus could be up to 2 years old. This means the wise men's visit happened significantly after Jesus' birth, possibly a year or more. It also reveals Herod's paranoia and brutality. He wasn't taking chances. This wasn't a surgical strike. It was a massacre designed to ensure no potential rival survived. The Christmas story has a dark shadow we often sanitize in our pageants. Number 7. The star may have been a supernatural phenomenon. We've tried to explain the Star of Bethlehem with conjunctions of planets, comets, and supernovas. But here's what the text actually says. The star went before them and stood over where the young child was. Natural celestial bodies don't behave this way. They don't guide you turn by turn to a specific house. This suggests the star wasn't a natural astronomical event at all. It was a supernatural manifestation, a divine GPS system visible only to the wise men. God was literally lighting their path. Some scholars believe it was the Shekinah glory, the same divine presence that led Israel through the wilderness as a pillar of fire. Whatever it wasn't something you could see with a telescope. It was a miracle announcing the arrival of the king.
Number 6. Jesus was probably born in spring or fall.
December 25th isn't mentioned anywhere in Scripture. Early Christians chose this date to coincide with pagan winter festivals, making conversion easier. But clues in Luke suggest a different timeline. Shepherds were living out in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. In December, Bethlehem's weather is cold and rainy. Shepherds would have their flocks in shelters, not fields. But in spring, during lambing season, or fall, during grazing season, shepherds stayed in fields around the clock, protecting newborn lambs or preparing for winter. There's also the census timing and the priestly division schedule that places John the Baptist's conception in a way that puts Jesus' birth in September or April. Does this matter? Theologically, no, but it shows how tradition can obscure biblical details. Number 5. The wise men were likely Persian magi. We call them wise men, but the Greek word is magi. These were Zoroastrian priests from Persia, possibly Babylon. They were astrologers, studying stars for divine messages. This is shocking because astrology was forbidden in Jewish law, yet God used these pagan priests to honor his son. Why would Persian priests travel 1,000 miles to worship a Jewish king? Because Daniel had lived in Babylon centuries earlier, serving in the courts and likely influencing the Magi's traditions. They may have preserved Daniel's prophecies about a coming ruler. When they saw an astronomical sign, they connected it to ancient Jewish prophecy and came searching. God's plan included even pagan scholars. The first worshippers of Jesus weren't all Jews. Gentiles came seeking him from the beginning. Number 4. The wise men came months or years later. Every nativity scene gets this wrong. Shepherds and wise men never stood together at Jesus' manger. The shepherds came the night of his birth, saw him in a manger, and left. The wise men came much later, possibly a year or two later, to a house where the young child lived. Matthew and Luke describe completely separate events. The shepherds were local, arrived immediately, found a newborn. The wise men were foreign, traveled for months, found a young child. This isn't just trivia. It matters because it shows Jesus' birth announcement came in waves. First, the humble shepherds, representing Israel's poor. Later, wealthy foreigners, representing Gentile nations. From the beginning, Jesus came for everyone.
Number 3. The inn was likely a guest room, not a hotel. The word translated inn in Luke, kataluma, doesn't mean a commercial hotel. It means a guest room in a private home. When Luke wants to describe a commercial inn later in his gospel, he uses a completely different word. So Mary and Joseph likely weren't rejected by a heartless innkeeper. They came to Bethlehem, where Joseph had family, but the guest room was already occupied by relatives who'd also come for the census. So they stayed in the main living area of the house. In first-century Jewish homes, animals were often kept in a lower level or cave beneath the main floor for warmth and security. That's likely where the manger was, not a separate barn, but part of the family dwelling. This wasn't rejection. It was a crowded house during census time, and they made do with available space. Number 2. Jesus probably wasn't born in a wooden stable. Our Christmas cards show wooden barns with hay, but Bethlehem didn't have wooden stables like Western farms. The region was rocky with limited timber. Animals were sheltered in caves, which were common in Bethlehem's limestone hills. Church tradition dating back to the 2nd century identifies a specific cave as Jesus' birthplace, and the Church of the Nativity was built over it. Archaeological evidence supports that caves were regularly used for animal shelter in that area. Picture this, not a picturesque barn with hay bales, but a dark, damp cave carved into rock, smelling of animals, with a stone feeding trough as the only crib available. This makes the humility of Christ's birth even more profound. The King of Glory entered our world in a cave among animals.
Number 1. The Bible never says there were 3 wise men. Here's the Christmas myth we all believe. 3 wise men rode camels to Bethlehem. But Scripture never says 3. It mentions 3 gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, but not 3 men. There could have been 2, 5, a dozen, or an entire caravan. In fact, given the distance they traveled and the danger of the journey, it was likely a large company with guards, servants, and supplies. Think about it. Their arrival alarmed Herod and all Jerusalem. 2 or 3 travelers wouldn't cause citywide panic, but a royal delegation from Persia with a large entourage would. The 3 wise men tradition came from the 3 gifts, but the reality was probably far more impressive. A foreign embassy arriving to worship the infant king of the Jews. This wasn't a quiet visit. It was a diplomatic event that threatened Herod's throne and set in motion the tragic massacre of Bethlehem's children.
The real Christmas story is messier, more political, more dramatic, and more miraculous than our sanitized versions. It involves prophecy fulfilled through pagan emperors, foreign priests guided by supernatural stars, a paranoid king murdering children, and a young couple navigating an impossible situation with extraordinary faith. It's not a silent night, it's a world-shaking invasion of heaven into earth. Which fact surprised you most? Drop a comment below. And if this changed how you see Christmas, smash that like button and share this with someone who still thinks there were 3 wise men. Until next time, celebrate the truth. It's even better than the legend.